Akeem Olufemi Gbajabiamila. God bless you all.
Some states, up to this moment, were unable to pay.
House of Representatives in heated debate over plans to include the minimum wage in the concurrent legislative list.
Total is 11,323,426,101 naira 70 kobo carry.
Lawmakers hopeful for a more secured Nigeria when police trust fund becomes fully functional. A warm welcome to another fresh edition of House Ticket, your window into the workings of the House of Representatives, Federal Republic of Nigeria. In this episode, several people-oriented legislations were considered and adopted by the House. They touched on security, minimum wage, prisons reforms, as well as employment for Nigerians. The program commences fully right after this timeout. Please stay with us.
If we set our minds right, embrace each other in love and brotherhood, we will come through these troubling times. We will survive, we will recover, and then we will thrive. One nation under God, free, peaceful, and prosperous.
Hello again. As we begin the program in full, let us take a highlight of plenary activities in the week under review as the House reverted to 2 days sitting in a week. As such, Tuesday 23rd and Wednesday the 24th of February 2021, bills and motions as well as other legislations were considered and scrutinized. Details in our first segment. Do stay tuned.
The House had a lengthy discussion on the reversal of the executive order and police directive banning possession and issuance of new licenses for firearms in the country. Representative Nkem Uzoma Abonta sponsored the motion.
Not every motion must pass, but the people must hear what I want to say. So what I'm saying, I need to also compose myself and be in a proper footing to argue it.
This idea brought about now may have been better for another time, not for in this kind of circumstances where we have generally believed that proliferation of small and medium range arms is quite unproductive to the fight against insurgency and banditry in this country.
As we are first approaching him to present this motion, there was a technical hitch with the microphone and public address system. Honorable Abonta said, you requested him to present it verbally by using his campaign voice. He said no, he wants to be heard. He wants Nigerians to hear what he is saying so that at the end of the day, his names will be written in gold because of the importance of the motion. So now the microphone is back. And now he is taking excuse that he is trying to extend the presentation to Tuesday. So as far as I'm concerned, my privilege is being infringed. He either take the motion now, we vote on it, or he should step it down for further legislative consultation, or 3, he should withdraw it completely.
Without acrimony, if our colleague has applied to step down his motion, he brought the motion. There is nothing wrong in allowing him the opportunity to step it down. We will still be in this house. In fact, I told him that I'm not supporting that motion. So we are still here. I see some little acrimony. That is why I prayed for Mr. Speaker to give me this leave to make contributions. So I will urge us to please follow precedent under Order 1, Rule 1, Sub-Rule 2.
Eventually, the motion was stepped down when the issues at stake were exhausted.
I have it.
Still on reports, the Police Affairs Committee also presented a report before the Committee of Supply on the issuance from the consolidated revenue of the Nigerian Police Trust Fund the sum of 11,352 million naira for capital expenditure for the year ending 30th April 2021. The chairman of the committee presented the report before the Committee of the Whole House.
11,323
All three recommendations in the report were adopted. That the Nigerian Police Trust Fund total projected income was 34.983 billion naira, but the Joint Committee of the Senate and House on Police Affairs recommends the sum of 11.354 billion naira, which is the capital component of the budget and will be terminated on the 31st of March 2021, while the balance of 23.631 billion naira will be carried over to 2021 budget of the Nigerian Police Trust Fund. That the purchase of the utility vehicles has been replaced with the procurement of COVID-19 protection kits for the police personnel amounting to 358.3 million naira. And also, that the sum of 553.8 million naira will be used to procure drugs and medical equipment for the police personnel, being amongst the core mandate of the Nigerian Police Trust Fund. The House also considered a bill for an act to alter the second schedule of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 to remove prison from the exclusive list and provide for establishment of correctional centers in the concurrent list and for related matters. Representative Benjamin Kalu sponsored the bill.
Concerns have been raised about the practicability of this Section 12, Subsection 8, which empowers the state controller of prisoner or correctional services to reject additional inmates when the facility under his watch is full. The question is he going to send the inmates away? Is he going to release the inmates to go home even when they have been convicted of crime that is not healthy for the society? The way forward, Mr. Speaker, that is proposed by this bill is that we need to build more prisons.
A debate ensued, with lawmakers opposing and supporting the passage of the bill.
My area of concern here is particularly now that we are in COVID period, where you have a prison capacity of 100 inmates, housing more than 1,000 inmates. We should understand that there is no way they can be free from this kind of epidemic.
We have a democratic government, Mr. Speaker. What we have not been able to achieve in all these years is to have a democratic system. We don't have a democratic, it's only when you have a democratic system that all these ideals can begin to work. We also don't want a situation where people will suffer, will starve. At the flip side of it, we also don't want a situation where we're going to have holiday camps, where we're going to have holiday camps as prisons.
There's a place called Bloemfontein in South Africa, where we actually saw a practical PPP arrangement. The prison was built, yes, by the states, but the running of the prison was more like done by a private security company. But the federal government of South Africa is the one that is directly in charge of who goes there and just like defining which kind of criminals or which kind of people who have been, have gone through their legal process should be detained or serve their time. So I think that the best approach in this would actually be more of a PPP arrangement.
The bill had been referred to the Ad hoc Committee on Constitution Review for more scrutiny. Another bill bordering on the Constitution also generated a lengthy debate, as it also sought to move an item from the exclusive legislative list to the concurrent list. The bill was titled Bill for an Act to Alter the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended to, amongst others, transfer the subject matter of the minimum wage prescriptions from the exclusive legislative list set out under Part 1 of the second schedule of the concurrent legislative list set out under Part 2 of the second schedule and for related matters. It was sponsored by lawmaker Muhammad Garbadetti.
To address one critical concern, this decentralization of the prescription of minimum wage does not shut the door on labor from negotiating. What it means is that labor will have to negotiate with each state to ensure that minimum wage in each state is reasonable in the circumstances of that state.
The bill garnered a lot of support as lawmakers described it as an advocate of true federalism that will aid the management of funds while ensuring the financial independence of states.
The issue of devolution of power is now, and all this leads to curing that request, demand, agitation for devolution of power.
This will liberalize the economies of the state, will also organize them, and will put them in a correct perspective on how they can manage their finances, on how much they can pay, and then also it will also strengthen the federal system we have here, because somebody from Katsina who has first class in biology can be recruited in River State to go and teach, because they have higher pay there. So it will strengthen how we live, how we coexist, and then the sharing of the intellect that we'll have. So it is very dynamic. It's a welcome idea.
Others that opposed the bill cited reasons of an undue advantage to the Nigerian worker by the political class, amongst other reasons.
But I think this very bill is anti-people. It's anti-masses, and I believe it should not be allowed to pass through. I know what we have seen. I know what is going to happen by the time you say you have this one devoted back to the state. I can assure you most Nigerians will go impoverished at the detriment of some of the governors.
That they can afford to pay security votes for themselves. And in those states, ask the police commissioner, ask the director of DSS. They're not giving them anything. They're not paying salaries. So we must be sincere to whatever we discuss here. That you're dealing with people who have reprobate mind, that they don't want to do anything to help anybody. So if you say, okay, let us go there and let them say or discuss what they want to pay, the danger is that they may end up not paying anything.
God will be giving them license to hide under the law of ability to say, I am sending the workers for a 3-month vacation to work without salary. We will follow this bill to the Constitutional Committee and fight it there if we are unable to get it on the floor.
Cross-border migration. If, for instance, I love the bill. I think the bill is fantastic, but there are some unforeseen consequences. If, for instance, Kaduna State, the minimum wage there, as fixed by the state, is way higher. Do you see a situation where people are moving from Katsina every day in the morning to come and work in Kaduna and then go back home and increase the pressure of the population and the usage of the facilities in Kaduna? Those are unforeseen consequences. But I think if this bill does pass eventually, there have to be some very important safety valves. Concerns have been raised. I think the state assemblies should be very much involved.
If you just tuned in, the program is House Ticket, your regular educative platform on the workings of the House of Representatives, Federal Republic of Nigeria. We just took a summary of plenary for the 23rd and 24th February 2021, where the House passed some critical bills, taking far-reaching resolutions on key motions. We shall continue with discussions on some of the bills recently passed at second reading by the House. One of such is the Police Trust Fund Bill, whose budget is just being considered at the National Assembly in order to kickstart operations at the funds in earnest. Recall that the Police Trust Fund Bill got assented to on 3rd July 2019 by President Muhammadu Buhari. In a recent review, the Chairman House Committee on Police Affairs tells us more about the mandate of the Trust Fund and how it intends to function.
Is to regulate a kind of a board or a body that will ensure welfare, training and retraining equipment of having a modern policing in Nigeria to complement the formation and command. We are more than willing to ensure that we give piece of legislations that will put the police in a proper shape. And I equally have to acknowledge the leadership and the management of the Nigerian police.
The budgetary provision is a step forward at ensuring the core mandate of the trust fund is achieved, especially in terms of getting adequate training equipment and welfare of the Nigerian police, amongst other matters.
Policing any society all over the world is not the responsibility of government alone.
The police trust fund bill is packaged in such a manner that the contributors supposed to come from government, the 3 tiers of government, the private sector. That's why today in my submission, I made mention that only 0.5% of the federation account was remitted to the trust fund account, and only 0.5% of the VAT that accrued from the federation account is remitted to the trust fund account. But the other sources of revenue that are supposed to form part of what funds the trust fund did not remit anything. Impliedly, the private sector. And in the board of the trust fund, there is a representative of the private sector. So we are hoping and we are expecting the private sector to do the needful by remitting their own portion to help police the country.
Lawmaker Usman Kumo reiterated the intention of the lawmakers in the drive to set up an effective trust fund so as to enable a more secure nation, as well as advocate for effective community policing.
This is the first time that we are working day and night towards reforming the police. We have so many bills passed, and we are hoping that in the next 3 weeks, we are going to hold another public hearing on the Police Service Commission bill, or the National Institute of Police Studies, on the Police Academy bill, and we are equally going beyond that to ensure that all police colleges have a law passed to guide them. Because you go for a training, you as a police officer, you go to Staff College Jos, you go to Ikeja, go to Kaduna, and there go some courses where the courses are not, even the certificates are not being recognized by law. So our primary responsibility as a committee is to ensure that we reform the police to the best of our ability to ensure that we put the Nigerian police in tandem or at par with their sisters in the other community of nations.
Away from the Police Trust Fund bill, the House last week also considered 2 bills seeking transfer of some legislative items from the executive list to the concurrent list. The issues being considered for such a move include the minimum wage and correctional centers or prison reforms. We sought the sponsors of the bills to educate us more on what the transfer of these sub-items from one list to another entails.
If it is in the exclusive legislative list, that means it's only exclusive to National Assembly, Senate and House of Reps. But if it is shifted to concurrent list, both level of legislator will now have power to make their own laws. And that has to do with that minimum wage. That's what we are saying. So we are giving the states even their own powers too.
The list is a description of functions and responsibilities between various levels of government. And in this case, you have the federal government and the federating units. So the federal government's responsibilities, they are captured under the exclusive list. Current list means that we can share responsibilities. It is within the domain of the 2 levels of government, but the state and the federal, they share. Like in education, they share. Like in health, that's why you have State Health Management Board. We still have the Federal Medical Centers and Federal Medical Board.
On the transfer of the minimum wage prescription from the exclusive list to concurrent list, lawmaker Muhammad Garbadetti says it's a democratic norm in foreign countries, and achieving a law to that effect will help the nation's economy, as well as give opportunity for accountability, encourage other critical stakeholders' participation and development.
The minimum wage should not be static, because people in Abuja have been shortchanged if you say that the minimum wage should be 30. Because of the cost of rent, cost of transportation. So they can negotiate at their own level what their minimum wage should be. They can make it 50, 100,000, we don't care. And at the state level, let the states, based on the resources they have at their disposal, let them negotiate with the labor. And we are not saying that the Nigerian Labour Congress, the door is shut, is closed for them to negotiate. They can negotiate on behalf of labor for every state, pending on peculiarities of those states and what are the resources of those states. These are the arguments.
For lawmaker Benjamin Kalu, who sponsored the bill on transfer of correctional centers and establishment of it from exclusive to concurrent list, funding is a major issue. He explains how it should be sourced.
The state cannot share in this burden unless you move it from the exclusive list to the concurrent list. So we need to share the burden between the federal government and the federating unit. When we share the burden, you will find out that the states will come with the complaint during public hearing. I'm already expecting that. We don't have enough funds to run the prison. They are not going to question the philosophy behind having state prison. After all, they are asking for state police. Let's look at how we have related with the state on some of the issues on concurrent lists. It's not going to be different. We have intervention funds that they have leveraged in education and in health.
Lawmaker Benjamin Kalu reiterates that movement from the exclusive legislative list to concurrent legislative list will bring about sharing of responsibility between leaders, accountability, and faster development, just as effective reform of the prisoners will be achieved as intended.
In Australia, if you are about 2 years and up, you go to the federal prison. If it is lesser offense, you go to the state prison. What it will have is this indiscriminate approach to imprisonment on matters that ought not to get to that level will stop. Prison warders used to do was periodically take those who are of good behavior to go and work for these traditional rulers in their farms or work for the community that is hosting them. Some of them earn something after working, but they don't earn the full wage like a free man. If a free man is paid 30,000, maybe they get half of it, and it enters into their savings. So that by the time they are finishing, they have a place to stand. Because we say reformation is not only punitive, it's to reform them, to change their way of life, and then be accepted back into the society to add value to the society. That is why in the United States you have the prison there, you have, people learning how to make a lot of things. Shoes, computers, name them, fix cars, do that. So by the time they come out, they already have a trade. Some of them write exams while inside there. So, believe that the traditional rulers are stakeholders. The faith-based organizations are stakeholders. The town unions organization are stakeholders that appear on the stakeholders administration list of reforming people that have been incarcerated have a role to play. During those days I was referring to, they used to wear their uniform, their prison uniforms, and they work within a particular space of time. And once that time gets there, they go back. And you'll be surprised, they achieve things in their numbers faster than the normal people. They face it, they get it done because they are happy coming out to see the sky, they do it, and they look forward to it.
Despite the opposition faced by the bill during its consideration at second reading, Representative Garbadati says he is hopeful that stakeholders during constitutional review hearings will see the need for a shift of arguments in favor of the bill.
This does not mean that the door is shut for the labor at the national level, because labor are already experiencing such a thing. After imposing minimum wage at the national, then labor has to go back to still renegotiate with some other state. So why not wait? Why not do it before, not after? So these are some of the arguments. And the people that are calling for true federalism for devolution of power, this is an opportunity. We have to be dynamic. We don't have to be static. The world is changing. If this devolution of power from the center to the federating units will bring peace, will bring progress, I think we should embrace it. Because in the past, this is even what obtains. And as a party man, the APC constituted a committee to look at restructuring and devolution of power. And this is one of the items that was specifically addressed. And it's a report that was submitted to the party, and it was all agreed upon that this is the right way to move forward.
Those were extracts from interviews with lawmakers as they shed more light on some of the matters discussed during plenary in the week under review. Thank you for sharing your half hour with us. It has been my pleasure to keep you up to date on some of the activities of our elected representatives in the Green Wing of the National Assembly. Let us hear from you on national issues regarding your representatives through your questions and comments using our platform shown on your screen. We'll do our best to get responses from our lawmakers regarding your feedback. Until we meet again, enjoy the rest of the day.